Man, back at it with another YouTube reaction. All right, got the boy Trap Lord Ross in the building. All right, we finna tap in and see what he got going on. He got the brutal rise of the trend there. Agrewa, Chicago's most feared gang. Okay, we heard about the 63rd, O Block, Gyro City, all type of gangs in Chicago, man. He's saying that this the most feared in Chicago. Now you know, and I'm pretty sure this is like a Mexican gang. This might got something to do with some freaking MS-13 shit. You know these Mexican gangs do not be playing no games, my nigga. No games. Latin Kings, no games. Nut, yeah. They SDs, yeah, it get wicked, okay? So be sure to tap them links down below, like, comment, and subscribe. We finna learn about something today. So let's learn. Let's get it. And I'm not going to Chicago, so don't ask me to.
As one of the most dangerous cities in the US wasn't built overnight, and the streets of the Windy City have been legendary for all the wrong reasons for about a century now. Stretching back to a time when gangsters wore actual suits instead of tracksuits and carried Thompson submachine guns instead of Dracos or Glocks with switches, while dealing beer and booze instead of drugs due to the so-called bone-dry federal prohibition law that had gone into effect in January 1920, making alcohol illegal all over the country. The date's February the 14th, 1929. Valentine's Day morning in Chicago, and 7 men were gathered at the SMC Cartage Warehouse on North Clark Street. They were members of George Bugs Moran's North Side Gang, who had taken over the illegal booze markets of the north side of Chicago. The North Side Gang were waiting for what they believed was a shipment of stolen whiskey from Detroit's notorious Purple Gang, who had made a name for themselves in Michigan and beyond by hijacking the cargoes of other bootleggers, as well as kidnapping rich saloon owners and demanding heavy ransoms. But what they didn't know was that they were about to be backdoored by these Michigan madmen. At 10:30 a.m, a police car would pull up to the warehouse and 4 men got out, 2 in police uniforms while the other 2 in civilian clothes. The men dressed as police officers ordered the 7 men to line up against the wall, hands up, as if this was a routine bust. But then, the men in civilian clothes would step forward with Thompson machine guns, one with a 20-round box magazine, the other with a 50-round drum, both opening fire and unleashing hell on the unsuspecting gangsters. When it was all over, 7 men were dead, riddled with bullets from some of the most sophisticated weapons that money could buy in 1929. The St. Valentine's Day Massacre would be known as perhaps the most infamous gang killing in American history, a symbol of Chicago's reputation as a city where organized crime operates with military precision. Al Capone, widely believed to have ordered the hit, was in Florida at the time, establishing the perfect alibi while his enemies were being slaughtered 1,200 miles away. Although the authorities would later find out that Capone had received a mysterious phone call only 20 minutes after the massacre, placed from the notorious Congress Plaza Hotel in downtown Chicago, which was allegedly used by Capone as the headquarters for his gang. That gang was the so-called Southside Gang, better known as the Outfit, which Capone had inherited from his mentor Johnny Torrio, who had stepped aside as the leader of the gang in 1925 after barely surviving a serious assassination attempt. Capone would become the most powerful gangster at the time, building a criminal empire worth millions of dollars by the time he was 30. And when the law would finally catch up with him in 1931, he would only end up going down for tax evasion, despite allegedly ordering the murders of numerous men and ruling the Chicago underworld with an iron fist. Meanwhile, the city's gang culture has evolved far beyond the organized syndicates of Al Capone's era, as modern Chicago has become known worldwide through the culture of drill music, where gangs and other crews like King Von's O-Block, FBG Duck's 63rd Street, and Lil Durk's OTF have become global brands off the back of their conflicts that were live streamed on social media, turning gang music into music industry gold. But while these homegrown gangs battle over blocks and reputation, Chicago has also become home to international criminal organizations that operate with the ruthlessness and scale of the Mexican cartels. It's December the 2nd, 2024, and a house party.
Oh my
Virginia
gosh,
drivers,
this is
do not pay your auto insurance
2024?
bill until you hear this.
If you are
Last year?
drive
Oh,
less
hell
than
nah, boy. Definitely not going to Chicago
in
now.
Chicago's Gage Park neighborhood is winding down when multiple gunmen open fire on the crowd, and when the shooting stops, 3 people are dead and several others are wounded. The victims in this case are predominantly Hispanic, and the attack bears the hallmark of Tren de Aragua, a Venezuelan gang that law enforcement officials have described as MS-13 on steroids.
I told you
What
MS-13.
started
Oh,
as
damn,
a
this is
gang of
MS-13 on
Venezuelan migrants has
steroids?
now evolved
What
into
the
a
hell? Hold on, bruh. So this gang is MS-13 on steroids. Oh my God, Houston, we have a freaking problem, boy. Do y'all know what MS-13 is?
potent transnational crime force.
Yeah, okay.
Tren de Aragua, now linked to more than 100 police investigations across the country, and their influence is growing. News Nation correspondent Jorge Ventura tracking this criminal organization for us. Jorge, what are we learning?
Well, Natasha, some officials have actually described Tren de Aragua as MS-13 on steroids, a reference to the infamous Salvadorian gang. Tren de Aragua is a Venezuelan prison gang which in large part was seen to be contained in South America, but now has spread its influence to here in the United States and operating in states like New York, Colorado, even Wisconsin, and where you are, Natasha, in Chicago. And according to some reports, have even been given the green light to open fire on American law enforcement.
To put things into context and help understand why a gang like Tren de Aragua came to be in Chicago, let's first go all the way back to the beginning. The 1980s were hell in Central America as civil wars were tearing countries like El Salvador, Guatemala, and Nicaragua apart. Villages burned while families fled with nothing but the clothes on their backs. And unfortunately, among those desperate refugees heading north were young men who had learned to kill before they had learned to drive. Known for its large Hispanic population, Los Angeles became the destination for many of them, but the city's Mexican gangs weren't rolling out any welcome mats, and these Salvadorian kids found themselves in hostile territory, outnumbered, outgunned, and unwanted. So they decided to get organized. One of the largest groups called themselves the Mara Salvatrucha Stoners, and they were originally known for rather harmless activities like smoking dope and listening to heavy metal. But to survive in the dangerous streets of 1980s LA, only the tough are surviving. And already by the end of the 1980s, the gang had dropped the Stoners part from their name, and the group of heavy metal music listening outcasts had turned into a 500-member strong devil-worshipping army of killers. But while these gangs were born in the streets, the real training happened behind bars, and the American prison system became their finishing school, where their usual enemies like other Hispanic gangs suddenly became their allies against gangs of other races. The members of Mara Salvatrucha would eventually become aligned with the Mexican Mafia, one of the oldest and most notorious prison gangs, which earned the gang the right to add the number 13 to their name, this representing the letter M in the alphabet. And what had started as a group of refugee kids just trying to get by would eventually become MS-13, one of the most feared gangs in the world. By the 1990s, MS-13 had become a problem too big to ignore, and to solve this problem, the Clinton administration began to ship them back to where they came from. There was one fatal flaw in this plan: these countries were still in deep crisis, with enormous natural disasters, broken governments, and collapsed economies, and police forces that couldn't handle domestic crime, let alone an invasion of American-trained gang members. These deportees landed in countries that they barely remembered, with no job prospects and only one marketable skill. Within months, MS-13 would rebuild itself, bigger and better organized, and now operating across international borders. While American politicians may not have realized it at the time, they had exported a culture that was tailor-made to take root in Central America, a region where scarred youth lacking hope, opportunity, and state support would end up finding power, identity, and purpose in the gangs. Tren de Aragua, a gang born in the Venezuelan prison system, has now become one of the latest examples of this transnational powder keg that America helped to create. And now, the gang has seemingly taken Chicago by force.
We have 8 victims that we're going to solve this crime and find the individuals that are responsible for this heinous, terrible incident.
That's what Chicago police told us back on December 2nd, the day of a mass shooting at a birthday celebration at a Chicago lawn house party. 3 people died. 5 others were hurt.
It seemed like it was a party, yeah. There's always people at that house partying.
ICE now says this man, Edward Martinez Cermeno, ended that good time by shooting up the party. They picked him up in January in Schaumburg. He's facing federal charges for illegally entering the United States. In 2023, ICE arrested Ricardo Granadillo Padilla in North Carolina back in February. Agents also say they recovered these weapons, ammunition, and narcotics at his home in Chicago. We're told he had another pistol and ammo on him when arrested in Raleigh. ICE says he's currently in federal custody after being sentenced in March for illegally entering the United States in 2022. ICE officers also arrested these suspected members of the Tren de Aragua gang.
But the arrival of Tren de Aragua in Chicago was also part of the bigger story that began to take shape in 2022, when many southern states began sending busloads of migrants to northern sanctuary cities, including Chicago. By the end of 2023, the situation had gotten out of control, as about 20,000 migrants, the majority from Venezuela, had arrived in Chicago with no place to go, and with over half of them living in city shelters, while thousands also living outside around places like the police stations. Soon, these migrants with connections to gangs like Tren de Aragua would allegedly begin to raise hell in Chicago, even supposedly going to war with the existing gangs in the city, with both social and traditional media capturing these alleged incidents.
City West for some of the guns, 6124 South King Drive. Two Venezuelans are trespassing the building, showing guns in the courtyard, and they have motorcycles.
What? They was at O Block? Hey, go ahead. Whoa. Oh,
Breaking right now, a migrant is dead after a shooting outside the Gage Park facility. Alderman Ray Lopez confirmed the 28-year-old man died from his injuries. Police say he was on the sidewalk when an unknown car pulled up and someone inside that car fired shots at the man, hitting him in the head.
Goodness.
They walking around with machetes. It's like they trying to take I don't know what they doing, man, but they robbing people, they shooting people on the red lines, they kidnapping people, like they finding women in trash cans and garbage bins and like.
What?
I was walking towards the Sears Tower and they said multi-way, and I was like, no, I don't want no weed or none of that, and then they followed me and try to rob me. Like, I know a robbery, man, I used to do it. Like most of the spot news in Chicago, it be immigrants killing immigrants, like.
What? Let me find that. So it's not even like the old blocks of the world. The 64th King Drive, all that, bro. Like, it's not. It's the migrants out there. Oh my gosh! He said they finding people in trash cans and back alleyways, disembodied. Like, oh nah.
Corey Rogers was a Blackstone gang member for years. He drove us around the south side and showed us areas where he said Trendo Awagwa and other criminal gangs are setting up shop and what he called showing the flag, which means brandishing their weapons in front of like a housing project.
Oh, hell no.
Tay, we need that Lil JoJo remix. They claim they Venezuelan, but we V. Ooh.
The real issue is that America has allowed gangs to enter our country, gangs that they would consider ex-terrorist groups that are formed here. We are terrorist groups and we're in a gang. They let terrorists in our country.
However, there's of course also another side to the issue, and just like MS-13 had been used for years now by politicians to argue against certain kinds of immigration policies, Trendo Ragua has simply become the newest selling point to use in the political information war zone, making it hard to know to what extent these gangs are actually operating in cities like Chicago. Nevertheless, in January 2025, ICE would launch Operation Safeguard in Chicago, conducting raids that resulted in the arrest of at least 100 people in the Chicago area.
Organizations that support immigrants say they've received reports of ICE sightings in Northwest Side neighborhoods, including Hermosa and Albany Park. The launch of Operation
Safe. And the thing about it is, I don't want to get political or nothing like that, but yeah, bro, it get to a point where y'all gotta choose what y'all want. Okay, nobody. I'm coming off the saying like, okay, so if you hear from another country, right? You hear from another country, but you don't got your paperwork or whatever, you know, to be legal and all that shit. But you're not on shit. Like, you're not gang banging. You're not coming over here killing. You're not coming over here shooting niggas. And you're not coming over here robbing. Like, you know what I'm saying? You're not doing none of those things. You're just a regular human being, bro. Not on nothing. You just trying to look for a job and make ends meet. Look for a better situation because you leaving your old country, right? Fine. Leave them alone, ICE. You know what I'm saying? Leave them alone. Get them the proper help that they need, the right documentation so that it can be legal and live without having that over their back. Now, with this, like with Trend Agua, however you say it, I don't know if I'm butchering that. This is a problem, all right? Because these niggas are coming in here pillaging. Niggas is getting found disembodied in trash cans. Niggas getting robbed. They shooting niggas. Like, bro, that's the problem. You know what I'm saying? And that's why I'm like, okay, I can identify and attest to the situation. Like, okay, yeah, this is a problem. And yeah, we probably do need to deport them niggas. Like, I'm sorry. I'm just telling it like it is, bro. Y'all can be mad all y'all want and shit. Whatever. I don't care. I just told y'all, if you come over here and you not on shit, you just a regular human being, you not on that gang shit, bro, I agree that as the government and shit, the government should help y'all get assistance to become legal so I can live. So I don't have to live with that, that monkey on your back. You know what I'm saying? But if you doing this, you need to get your ass up out of here. I ain't gonna lie. You know what I'm saying? Real shit.
Guard involved multiple federal agencies.
And this is only the beginning. Last week, there was discussions that there are up to 2,000 targets in the city of Chicago alone, which means this will not be the end by any stretch of the imagination.
15th Ward Alderman Raymond Lopez supports the raids. He understands the concerns and fears.
We also know that there was an opportunity for collateral captures, and there are some concerns that we may have had a couple of those as well. But that is exactly what I and a number of my colleagues were trying to avoid when we wanted to amend our welcoming city ordinance, our sanctuary laws, to limit the opportunities for collateral captures.
ICE reports 1,000 arrests nationwide this weekend. President Trump's border czar Tom Homan and acting Deputy Attorney General Emile Beauvais were in Chicago Sunday to oversee the operation. Homan previously declared the city ground zero for the largest immigration crackdown in the country's history.
I'm here on the ground with this team. That ain't happening.
As raids like the ones in Chicago have continued to spread all over the country, they've also caused massive counter-protests, largest of them in the majority Hispanic Los Angeles, fueled by claims that ICE has targeted not just known criminals, but everyday working people. For now, it remains to be seen to which extent new gangs like Tren de Aragua will even find a permanent foothold in cities like Chicago. But while the migrant gangs raise hell in Illinois, back in Baton Rouge, the cycle of violence continues in a more personal and equally deadly way. And nowhere is this more evident than in the ongoing conflict between two of the city's most notorious gangs, a war that traces back several years at this point, but would become famous after another high-profile murder would shake the Baton Rouge rap community in 2022.
Yeah, man. Yeah, it's getting wicked right now in the country. I ain't gonna lie, man. Be sure to tap them links down below, like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Until next time, it's your boy.